What's up, sports bettors? Yesterday was absolutely insane. So you can see I cashed this 5-pick entry on Underdog Fantasy, turning $500 into 10,000. So a 5-pick entry. Anyways, without further ado, let's just start diving into some picks. Again, I try to keep these videos educational, so I'll also be explaining, my thought process behind each of the picks. So let's just go ahead, let's get into it. First play I'm on is right here. Jordan Miller over 12.5 points on Underdog Fantasy. So I'll zoom in a bit, but what you're going to notice is every sportsbook has Jordan Miller's point total set at 13.5. Underdog is at 12.5. Right? PrizePicks, their direct competitor. These are both DFS player prop platforms that work in basically the exact same way. PrizePicks is at 13.5. DraftKings, FanDuel, all the sports books have Jordan Miller's point total at 13.5. So Underdog's too low, right? They're a market inefficiency. This is a screw up, an error on Underdog Fantasy's part. Their line should be at 13.5. So there's value on the over 12.5, right? We found an edge. We found value. If Miller has exactly 13 points, we're going to win our wager on Underdog Fantasy. Anyone who bet him over 13.5 is obviously going to lose. So again, when I talk about, PrizePick strategy, so here you can kind of see my PrizePicks results. And then Underdog Fantasy, winning streak, losing streak. I'm not claiming I win every day, right? But I'm finding picks where I have a mathematical edge, right? Where I'm finding value, spots like this, where we're able to get a full point of value to the market. And that really is how a sharp sports bettor thinks, right? It's not like you wake up and you're like, oh, I want to bet on LeBron James tonight, right? That's not what a sharp sports bettor thinks. That's what a square bettor thinks. They wake up, they bet with their gut, they bet off their feelings, they bet off trends, they bet off the highlights from last night, right? Whereas a sharp sports bettor wakes up and is like, dang, I'm going to look through the market. I'm going to try to find an edge. I'm going to try to find value. I'm going to try to find spots like Jordan Miller over 12.5 points when all the other data points are telling me his line should be at 13.5. Right? So some people will ask me yo, why don't you have a play on Marcus Sasser on Underdog? Well, look at the lines. Every book has his line at 17.5. There's really no major discrepancies in the odds. There's no value. You're just paying the vig, right? As a sharp sports bettor, we're looking for value. We're hunting through the market because every book wants to set lines independently. We're hunting through the market and looking for spots like this where Underdog is slipping up. So this, long story short, is the first play that I went with, Jordan Miller over 12.5 points. So my next play on Underdog Fantasy, so we'll stick with Underdog Fantasy. And I explain this all the time, but when I talk about my results on Underdog Fantasy, this isn't to brag. It's just to illustrate to you, everything I'm giving out is going to be 3-pick and 5-pick entries. Right? So on Underdog Fantasy, I'm mainly going to be giving out 3-pick or 5-pick with no insurance, right? So this was the winning slip, you can see here. But again, we're turning, this is a very volatile platform. And what I mean by that is you should expect big swings in your profit. This run up and then this run down is not particularly surprising because you have to remember these are really long odds that you're getting. These are crazy parlays. We're staking $500 to win 10,000, right? I'm not going to hit 50% of the plays where I'm staking $500 to win 10,000. So you're going to see mostly losses, minus 350, minus 350, minus 350. But these big 10K wins make up for all of it, right? And if all of your plays have an edge, then you'll win long term. So we've explained before that on Underdog Fantasy, you want to be going with 3-pick entries, 5-pick entries with or without insurance, 3 picks with no insurance, or 4 picks with insurance, right? This is what is mathematically optimal. So I ride with you guys on all of these plays, and you're going to notice right here, everything I'm showing you, frickin' thousands and thousands of plays on Underdog Fantasy, right? Working hard to get all this profit, to get an edge over the books. I don't win every day, but it's all 3 and 5-pick entries, or, as I mentioned, 4 picks with insurance, as you can see right here, right? So when you're playing a 3-pick with no insurance, a 4-pick with insurance, and it really matters, 4 picks without insurance are horrible. You got to play the 4-pick with insurance. But what you're getting is minus 122 odds, right? So you're getting minus 122 odds on Underdog Fantasy for 3 picks or 5 picks. And we haven't added it in yet just because it looks really long, but also 4 picks with insurance. So 3 picks, no insurance, 4 picks with insurance, 5 picks with or without. And why do we like this play on Jerome Hunter, right? So what you're going to notice is like, dang, all of the sports books have his under heavily favored, right? So this isn't a sports book, that's Underdog. This isn't a sports book, that's PrizePicks, right? That's another fantasy. So all of these first platforms are just fantasy platforms. But what you're going to notice is Bet365, Bodog, Bovada, DraftKings, and Pinnacle. These are sports books, right? And they all have Jerome Hunter under 10.5 points heavily favored, right? Around, minus 150 odds, let's say, on average. DraftKings has this minus 160, Bovada minus 160, Bet365 minus 140. So all these sports books have the under heavily favored, and we're getting minus 122 on Underdog. So that's clear value. You can also get this on PrizePicks. So I also played this on PrizePicks, but we're starting with Underdog Fantasy. So again, like the general concept is pretty simple of sharp sports betting. You have to figure out the payouts you're getting on Underdog and PrizePicks. So on Underdog Fantasy, we're getting minus 122 odds. If you convert the lines on Underdog Fantasy or the payouts on Underdog to what they'd be on a sports book, you'd be getting minus 122. And then it's just like you want to find value in the market. So unlike the screen, what the EV tool does is it compares where books are setting the line at the same level, right? So on the screen, we saw, okay, Jordan Miller, his point total is 12.5 on Underdog, 13.5 on all the sports books. So we want to take the over. That's not what the EV tool does, right? What the EV tool does is it compares when all the books are setting the line at the same level. So here, all these sports books have Jerome Hunter's line at over under 10.5 points, and they are all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 sports books. So these two are just the same. Pinnacle is known to be the sharpest sports book in the world. So we just duplicate their odds into this odds jam column. I don't really know why. We started doing this like a year and a half ago and it's just stuck. But long story short, it's like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 data points all telling us his under should be heavily favored around minus 150. We're getting minus 122. That's clear value. That's a play that I went with, right? So this is a second play I went with on Underdog Fantasy. So this is a play I gave out yesterday, which also is doing extremely well. We just need Timmy Allen under 21.5 PRAs, and hopefully this will cash as well. But anyways, here's the final pick on Underdog Fantasy. Jerome Hunter under 10.5 points, right from the EV tool. I never bet with my gut. I'm just following data. I've never heard of Jerome Hunter. Couldn't pick him out. No idea who he is, and I don't care, right? It literally doesn't matter. I've never watched this guy play basketball, but everything I need to know about him is reflected in the odds, right? These sports books, DraftKings is $1 billion company, right? They have hundreds of employees. They have invested hundreds of millions of dollars in their ability to set lines. They have better models than you have. Everything you know, any public information they know, right? Data, injury reports, they get access to that before you, right? They pay big bucks for access to all this data, right? And they've invested, again, it's $1 billion company. They have lots of people and, basically their only job is to accept bets and beat sports bettors. So they're really good at setting lines. So when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sports books, including the sharpest sports book in the world, Pinnacle, all telling you Jerome Hunter under 10.5 points should be heavily favored, you should be taking that on Underdog Fantasy at minus 122, right? And this is why Underdog, as well as PrizePicks, is so beatable, right? This is why this platform is so beatable, is what you're going to notice is right on Underdog Fantasy. So if we go back here and let's say, let's select 2 random picks, is right. What you're going to notice is the way Underdog works is they just have this payout multiplier. It doesn't matter if you take overs, unders, right? They don't change your payout, which is why you'll notice on Underdog Fantasy on Odds Jam, when you're looking at the positive EV tool, which just shows you value on Underdog, it's always going to be minus 122, minus 122 for a 3-pick or a 5-pick entry. 2-pick entries are minus 137, which is why we don't play them, right? There's no value right? It's nearly impossible to make money playing 2-pick entries. I mean, sure, maybe you could scrape by, but there's no way you're going to get the results that I have if you are playing 2-pick entries. It's just not possible. Or 4 picks or 3 picks with insurance, right? I'm typically playing, for the most part, you'll notice that I'm playing, if we go back here, for the most part, I'm playing 3 picks with no insurance, just because it's easier in general to find 3 profitable picks as opposed to 4. Here, I was able to find 4 really good ones, so I put it into a 4 pick with insurance because you're getting the same implied odds. But if you're curious about where these odds come from, stuff like that, we have videos about it. If you're curious about the edge, right? How do you get this profit margin? We have videos about it. But this is a really high profit margin, right? Like, you have to remember, if we're placing a 3-pick entry, and let's say each of our picks on Underdog has roughly a 3% profit margin, if it's a 3-pick entry where each pick has a 3% profit margin, 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9, right? Your Underdog entry is going to have roughly a 9% ROI. So if we go to Underdog Fantasy, I have no idea. I've run very hot on Underdog compared to PrizePicks. So hopefully I don't go on a brutal losing streak on Underdog Fantasy. But regardless, on Underdog Fantasy, I've been able to find, incredibly profitable plays with like an 8% profit margin. So if I have a 3-pick entry where each pick has an 8% profit margin, right, then I'm making a 24% ROI on that entry. Long term, right? Long-term edge. It's known as edge, right? So I don't win every day as a sports bettor. Like you'll notice here, when I talk about ROI, it's not like you win every single bet. But the point is if you're placing bets with a 3% profit margin over the course of the long run, right? Over the course of the long run, you're going to earn a 3% ROI. It's kind of like if a coin is, let's say, 53% to show up on heads, it's more likely to show up on heads. So if we flip that coin, it's more likely to show up on heads, 53%, but it's still 47% to show up on tails, right? But if you flip it a million times, it's going to show up almost exactly 53% of the time as heads due to the law of large numbers. That's called the law of large numbers. So long story short, Jerome Hunter under 10.5 points. Anyways, let's move on to PrizePicks. So on PrizePicks, I had a huge cash as well right here. So really good day in general on both of these DFS platforms. So you can see the Watford play was included in both. John Morant, right? You can see there's some duplication sometimes, which you'll notice here as well. So we had Watford here, right? We have Watford on PrizePicks. We have John Morant under 4.5 rebounds there. John Morant under 4.5 here. Amari Bailey on Underdog, the value was on his points total. On PrizePicks, it was on his rebounds. So I took the rebounds on PrizePicks and I took his point total on Underdog, right? And all of these plays, again, were found from that screen. It's called the Odds Jam screen. So again, I can open it up right here. It's called the Odds Jam screen, and you can, again, look at any market. You can look at any sport you want to look at. So all my plays I'm just finding out from this EV tool or from the screen. But anyways, let's get into PrizePicks. So on PrizePicks, there's also Jerome Hunter, right? So on PrizePicks, we know if we go over to my little PrizePicks PowerPoint right here, on PrizePicks, all my results, you're going to notice I'm only placing 5-pick entries, right? 5-pick entries, as you can see right here, or 6-pick entries. So on PrizePicks, 5 and 6-pick flex plays are mathematically optimal. So again, you don't want to play 2-pick power plays on PrizePicks. You got to be going with 5 and 6-pick flex if you want to make money. So Jerome Hunter under 10.5 points is a profitable play, as well as Colby Jones over 2.5 assists. So why do we like Jones assists? Sure, the profit margin is slightly lower, but take a look at the odds, right? There are literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, like 15 sports books all telling us that Colby Jones, his over, should be heavily favored, right? Sportsbooks imply win probabilities through their odds. If, let's say, something's minus 200, that means it's a 2-to-1 favorite. 2-to-1 favorite, 2/3 to win, minus 200 odds, 66.67% to win, however you want to think about it, right? Plus 200 Underdog is, a 2-to-1 dog, 1/3 to win, 33.33% to win, right? So the fact that all sports books are juicing this, I mean, pretty aggressively around like minus 150, let's say on average, we're getting minus 119 on PrizePicks. We found value, So as a sharp bettor, all you're looking for is value. You're like a savvy investor. You're like a day trader. You're hunting for an edge for value in the market. And we have a bunch of videos about how to break down your profit margin, how to back out the odds on PrizePicks, right? Like I've done a bunch of videos breaking down PrizePicks, showing 5 and 6 pick flexes are optimal. So this video, I'm just going to cut it pretty early and just show you the picks. And long story short, again, all my plays, just finding plays with a mathematical edge. So on PrizePicks, here's what I ended up going with. Darian Tremmel over 13.5 PRAs. Walker Kessler under 12.5 rebounds plus assists. Ryan Kalkbrenner over 15.5 points. Jaden Ivey under 3.5 rebounds. Colby Jones over 2.5 assists. And then I just replaced Colby Jones with Jerome Hunter here, right? So the reason I didn't include these two players in the same slip is if Colby Jones goes over, let's say Colby Jones has, his assist line goes over, he's probably passing a lot of his assists to Jerome Hunter. So these are negatively correlated, right? You typically don't want to include in the same PrizePick slip a player on, the same team to go over an assist and then his teammate to go under in points. It doesn't make much sense, right? Like you want to go over and over or under and under because you're getting the added benefit of correlation. So long story short, I just ended up, kind of breaking it up and just including them in separate slips. But regardless, 5 picks on PrizePicks, right? Or 6 picks, I guess, technically. And then I just swapped out Colby Jones and Jerome Hunter. And then on Underdog Fantasy, we have another 3-pick entry right here. Jordan Miller over 12.5 points. Jerome Hunter under 10.5 points. Darian Tremmel over 13.5 PRAs. So here you can see again, Jerome Hunter, right? There was value on it on PrizePicks as well as on Underdog. Whereas here, this line isn't on Underdog. You can't get Colby Jones over 2.5 assists on Underdog Fantasy. It's only on PrizePicks. So this is why you want numerous sports books, right? Like if I do select all sports books, you're going to see the top plays available in the market are on No House Advantage, Barstool. Long story short, you want multiple sportsbook accounts, right? You need to have multiple sportsbook accounts, or you don't need to, but if you want to make money, you should, because you'll see some profitable bets are on, CoolBet, which I think is a Canadian sportsbook. Some are on Bet365, some are on FanDuel, yada, 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 right? So more sportsbooks means more profitable betting opportunities. Again, they all try to set lines independently, and you never know which one's going to screw up on a given day, right? So as sharp bettors, what's so cool is what we realize is like, just like this play on Jerome Hunter, is right, we have dozens of sports books, dozens, telling us where the line should be set, right? Like actually it's more like hundreds. So for like this money line, I mean, if you just look through, probably at least, and I have some sports books filtered out. I mean, there's so many data points telling you where the line should be set. Sophisticated sports books, right? Taking bets, right? Moving around lines due to supply and demand. And you're not going to outsmart the sports books. But anyways, hopefully this video was helpful. Let's make money.